You're watching Universal Groove. I got Joey from the Sinceres. I can't believe it. I'm pretty sure you guys can't believe it. It's unbelievable. We've been talking about him for so long. On every interview he's come up. I call him personally the Dr. Dre of soul. He's helping out a lot of bands. He's putting together some really good 45s records, helping a lot of people out, putting out some stuff. And he seems to be just that guy pushing out the good content. So, Joey, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Gabe?
Man, I'm so excited for this, man. I've been like so nervous, man, because like I said, like I feel like right now you got like this soul scene, like you and like Trish Toledo are like, she's like Superwoman, and then you're like Superman, bro. Like everyone's just kind of like following the lead right now. So again, just super excited to sit down with you. I have so many questions, and there's so many people out there that are loving your stuff. Let's just jump into it, man. Just where were you born? Where'd you grow up, and where were you born?
I was born out here in San Bernardino area, Fontana. That's the name of the city. My mom and dad bought a house out here. They had just moved out of East LA, my brother and my sister, and they bought a house out here. Middle of nowhere, dirt everywhere from where I can remember growing up. I moved back recently, and that's obviously where the studio is now in Rialto, but man, it's just so much different from when I remember growing up. You know, it's just very empty and very deserty and very dry when I remember growing up in it. But yeah, born and raised Fontana, really raised in East LA though. Moved out there, my mom, she was about like 10 years old, and I consider that kind of like what really got me into music, what really got me, you know, to learn about life and everything. It's just going through high school and the real crucial years, you know.
Now, you said that you moved out with your mother. Was there like a divorce or a split at that point?
Yeah, my parents had split up. You know, I think like my mom had gotten custody of all three of us. My sister, which is older than me, and then my brother, who's 6 years older than me. So I'm the youngest of three. And we all kind of moved out and moved in with my grandfather. You know, he lived in East LA on Fraser, and he right off of Whittier Boulevard. And the house in front was, you know, the house that the mechanic lived at, where everybody would get their cars. My dad's car club would get their cars kind of fixed up and stuff like that. So we moved into that house once he had passed away. And you know, we'd visit my dad on the weekends, San Bernardino, and then we'd go back to East LA and be with my mom, my grandfather. You know, that's what kind of got me into music, because hearing music, backyard gigs in East LA, like right down the street, and like, what the hell's going on? These rock and roll bands going over here, you know?
Wow, so huge change, right? You're going from like maybe like dirt fields to all of a sudden the big city. And just talk about just the influences of that area around you in East LA.
Just moving to Los Angeles in general, you know, it's like a movie thing. It's like, you know, you grew up knowing that you lived in California as a kid, but then you know that there's the big cities, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then not just moving to Los Angeles, you think you're gonna be these skyscrapers and these taxis and, you know, lights and stuff, but you get there and it was East LA. It was, you know, like liquor stores and, you know, carnicerias and stuff like that, you know. But I mean, it just felt, I knew that it was my mom's home and my dad, and that's where they grew up. That's where they met in high school. And it was important because I was so excited to move to East LA, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to Garfield High School. You know, my parents always talked about Garfield High School. And, you know, the first year we moved out there, my mom took us to a football game, the East LA Classic, which is the Roosevelt versus Garfield. They have every year. And I remember her pointing, she's like, see that? That's the best marching band in East LA, right there, Garfield Bulldogs. And I was like, huge, big orchestra coming out on the field. Some of the guys in the band on that field that day were like some of the guys that I play with today, you know, some of the horn players. And, you know, I just remember remembering that, like, oh, I wanted to do that.
I want to go back to just like you being there at your grandfather's house. Now, is your grandfather the one that introduces you to oldies or reggae, or who's the person that really kind of put you into that, you know, with that music?
I think it was going to my dad's, because he, you know, on the weekends when my parents split, you know, we'd go to my dad's house, and on the weekends, that's when he would have us. But on the weekends is also when he didn't have to work, and when he would get to do most of his free time stuff. So he was on a car club then. He would drag us on to these car shows. It's like so boring, like fuck, another car show, you know. But you know, I remember like, you know, recognizing songs. My mom was she liked like R&B, like Janet Jackson and, you know, Madonna, stuff like that. But she also liked like a lot of Motown, a lot of like kind of 70s. And my dad was all about War, Tower of Power, you know, and stuff like that. So he was really like kind of like the one who, he would roll out his car and he had an 8-track player and he would play What Is Hip, or, you know, the same song every time we'd roll into the car show. And we'd just be there kind of just like hanging out, you know, just snacking on popcorn, just kind of waiting it out. You know, so we kind of got dragged into it, but stuff, you know, it kind of started getting in there somehow, you know, it was always there. So I think later on realized like, oh, like, you know, I remember this song because I used to listen to it 30 times a day at my dad's car show, you know. So I think that's what kind of like got me into that.
What is the first instrument that you picked up?
First instrument I picked up was the drums. I wanted a drum set, you know, and I was maybe like in first grade, and my dad took me to buy the sticks. You know, we're looking at drum sets, and I got to the class in my school, and they like gave us these little drum pads, and I was so pissed off because I wanted to play a drum set. You know, like, man, this is whack. This is lame. You know, so I kind of just let the drumsticks became like the things for the windows. You know, like when you can't lock them, you put them right there, so just a little piece of wood, so you can't open it. So the drumsticks became that for a long time. So I was completely uninterested in it. But my brother had gotten a guitar for Christmas. You know, he had learned like Pretty Woman or something, and it was like, whoa, that's fucking dope. And every time, he's my big brother, so I looked up to him so much. You know? And he would like leave it laying around and leave out, go with his friends. And he hated when I would tag along. I was a typical little brother. Didn't want me around, didn't want to teach me anything, didn't want to have anything to do with me. You know, but every time he left, I would pick up a guitar and, you know, just try to doodle on it. It was too big for me, so I'd have to have it in front of me like this. And just try to like just mimic some stuff and just try to just fuck around with it. And I think it was like maybe like 3 or 4 years later, he had put it down immediately after maybe like a year. But I had always picked it up, and he would always still get mad that I would take it out. My dad started realizing it, so he's like, I'm gonna buy this dude a fucking guitar for Christmas.
And then who's the person that takes the time to teach you? Is this something that you learn on your own, or do you get lessons? Who's the person that steps up to teach you this skill?
I think for the most part, it was just like, man, it was like punk rock. It was listening to CDs, and that was the simplicity of it, getting into it. It's like, and then seeing people like my age being in these bands with minimal experience doing anything, you know. I think it was like kind of just like a muscle thing that, you know, just sitting down with records and just trying to feel it out. Because I think the thing that I had the most that I've learned is like my ears are kind of my biggest, you know, skill. Like I can play every instrument, but I'm not that good on any of them. But my ears are good, and I could kind of play along with anybody and slide in there. So I think at that age, it was just more my ear teaching my hands how to do it, you know. And then like eventually throughout my life, somebody would kind of have those little kind of like, you know, those little unlock modes where you would kind of like make sense of certain things and put it all together and move to the next step. So I kept having people like that come in my life and kind of teach me little tricks that made me understand music as a whole rather than just as just a guitar.
Well, I've been seeing you around, maybe far too many times lately, holding hands with what's his name. You know I never really cared for what's his name. Shine my way. Should never try to tell me words to you. Oh, those very simple little words to you. Goodbye, baby. Goodbye. This time for good. But I can't seem to find a way to telling you.
So let's go back to meeting Tony.
You know, I got to middle school, my first day of school. The first person I met was Tony Medina. You know, we met and we actually had like this kind of like scheduling conflicts. So we sent all people with conflicts to the auditorium. And I sat next to this dude for like the whole entire day. You know, all we did was talk about, you know, it's like he had a Weezer patch. And I think like we were talking about wrestling or something. He's like, oh, you like Weezer? Like, yeah, all right, cool, homies. You know, like that's it, you know? So it was both of our first day of school, and we coincidentally had the same homeroom, which means that you have the same class for every year, you know, that you're there. And, you know, he's like going to summer vacation is like, you know, you sign the papers for elective to come when you're 7th grade. And it's like, and I was like just running around like being a fucking travieso and stuff. And it's like, hey man, sign this paper. I'm going to be in marching band. I'm being band. Like, oh, I'm down. I'm being band too. So I signed it, walked away to think about it. Saw him next year in the orchestra class and like, dude, what do you do? He's like, oh, this means this means this. And, you know, just blow and, you know, play the trumpet like this. And I really wanted to play the saxophone because my dad always told me stories about him playing baritone saxophone. So I missed school a lot because I would stay up late, I wouldn't get up in time. So I missed the day that they brought the saxophone out and I ended up picking up a trumpet because Tony was playing trumpet. So we ended up playing trumpet together. And that kind of just started everything because we just, you know, went through middle school, high school, trying to start a band. And, you know, I'd spend all day drawing these band logos on my notebook, you know, and trying to write songs, you know, or just like making flyers. And, you know, like we used to have this little hustle with the homie. And, like anytime there was a backyard punk gig, they would come to us to draw these flyers because they were all handmade back then. You know, you make one original, you print them out, and pass them out. It's before Facebook, before Instagram. So fucking, so we, you know, that got us to know all these other older bands and other people. And, you know, the people that we were in high school with were in a talent show band called Upground. You know, and they blew my mind because we had saw them like with Unit 13 at the East LA College. And, you know, we were like 13, 14 going to these punk rock shows, like just tripping out and like how fucking professional everything seemed and how loud everything and how exciting it was. And, you know, I think we just wanted to start a band. And, you know, we met up with some guys in Boyle Heights and that started this little ska-core band, turned into the Delirians, the reggae band.
How far does this project go?
He had joined the band first and he was like taking a bus to South Central to go practice with these guys or somewhere. And I was like, man, like, what? Like, you know, your parents said you do that? Like, crazy. Yeah, man, just, you know, ska, you know, these show here and there, blah, blah. So like, yeah, I want to do this. So he's like, yeah, just, you know, I hit up the guy and like he told me to come down to practice and audition, you know. I showed up with my trumpet and lead singer. Oh, no, actually I showed up as a guitar player because I wanted to audition as a guitar. I showed up with my guitar and like, you know, and then I talked to the guitar player. I was like, hey, like, you know, what's up? Can I audition? And he's like, oh, we already have a guitar player, man. Sorry. And he picks up his guitar and he just starts jamming. I'm like, oh, so you can't have two guitar players? All right, whatever. And then Tony was like, man, he plays trumpet too. Let him play trumpet. So I was like, I don't know if Tony had brought him. I can't remember, but I don't know if he had an extra trumpet or if I had brought my trumpet as well. And, you know, we started playing the songs and they liked it. There was two horn players. But then like the guitar player came to me again, like, oh, man, that's kind of cool. Tony plays trumpet though. Like if you play trombone, it'd be tighter, you know? So I was like, all right, motherfucker. So the next day I ditched school and I was in the band room, just picked out a trombone and I was just trying to learn everything I had learned the day before on the trombone. Got together with them the next day after that, and then I was like, all right, I guess you can be in the band. So then I was like, cool. I was like, okay, fuck it. Now I can be in that band down. So I became a trombone player for a long time. And we kind of just like, we played backyards and we traveled a little bit. You know, the farthest we went was like San Jose or something like that. Vegas, maybe something like that. But we would play like the festivals and the shows and didn't really go too far. We put out a little record. And, but what really came out of that is that, you know, the guitar player, myself and Tony had kind of started the Delirians, which became a band for a while, which I still have a tattoo of right here. And me and Tony have that. He has the same tattoo. Fun fact. But yeah, so we started that group, and I think that's what really kind of got us to look at music and take it seriously as a business. Because Tony's dad has been in the business for years. And he was like, his house was always the house that we'd be practicing at, making noise. And so he put the idea of making music a profession in our head really early on. You know, so it didn't seem like we were wasting. It didn't seem like we were just like wasting our time with our friends. We actually were working towards something. And our family started seeing that we were taking it seriously because we were investing money. You know, we were taking steps to be professional and to like put out stuff and, you know, get a website at the time, put out, make a CD, shirts, merchandise. You know, so they kind of let us run wild with that. And, you know, we kind of took the Delirians to another level, and that kind of was our main thing for a long time. Angel still is, the guitar player is still in that group, still kind of leading the group, taking them to another steps now. You know, so it's kind of like, that's where we kind of had our meeting of, this is what we want to do and this is what we're going to do it together.
How big of a blessing is that to meet a guy like Tony, first day of school, his dad being in a band, you know, really educating you guys on the business. I mean, that is like a godsend, Tony is, right?
Man, I owe a lot of it to him, man, and his family, because like I said, they put in our head to be able to do this as a living and make it a profession and to take it seriously. And he's always been not only like one of the best musicians to play with and write with, but he's such a professional and such a loyal musician to have. So I mean, he instilled a lot of that kind of professionalism at an early age to me directly.
Now you guys, after high school, you guys move in together in Uptown Whittier, right, in a studio. Can you go into details about that?
Yeah, so I think we had kind of lost, because like I said before then, his garage was the place that we had rehearsed at and recorded at, and you know, we had turned his whole garage, we had redone it, put the whole soundproof, really did it real nice. And you know, the family had moved out of the house. His mom had sold the house, so he was I forgot where he was. Maybe he was moving in with his grandparents or something. But you know, the point is that we needed a place to play and practice. We wanted to keep going. We had these shows and these tours coming up. We were going to Canada for the first time. So like we were like, we gotta invest, and you know, we're not gonna pay to play at these. I mean, we're not gonna pay for these hour spots. We need a place that we could, you know, build. So we all kind of sat down and decided that we're gonna get this studio. We got the Uptown Whittier, and I remember we got the keys like a week earlier, maybe a couple days early, and no furniture, no appliances, nothing in there. We all just slept on the floor, like just bring your blankets, and we all just kind of like, we're so happy to be in our own studio that we just all crashed out right there in the night. So it was kind of like, that was like the meeting grounds for everybody, and it turned into like a really, really big community, because we got friends with the people next door, and then our friends had ended up renting that building, and then another band came up that I had joined, the Steady 45s, had rented the building underneath. So it was like we would lock this main door down at the base of the stairs and just leave all of our doors open, and everybody would just be coming in and out. Like, oh, what are you working? I was like, oh, I need a fucking tambourine. You want to see? Cool. Right. It was straight up a musical community like Motown. And, you know, I think that just kind of that was like my favorite place to be, because I was writing so much and I was so inspired by everybody around me, getting all these ideas and kind of prepping and getting the idea of actually how I have the studio now. I always kind of modeled it after what that studio was, you know. And we had some wild parties there too.
Yeah, so I want to go into that. So, I mean, living in a studio, which you're not supposed to live in, right? You guys are actually moving into the studio, which I don't know if the studio people even know. So can you go into detail on that?
Very, very, very illegal for sure to be living there for us, especially 4 of us. But I mean, the landlord, he was cool, just he didn't want it to get too out of hand. But, you know, we would be up for days sometimes. We'd be up for days just like working on projects, jamming out or fixing something, and like, you know, just playing records, showing each other stuff, like always just kind of something was always going on. So it was kind of hard to sleep because people's sleep schedules were different. Some people work graveyard, come in and want to be in the studio all night. And then, you know, other people spend all day working, kind of want to come home, and everybody it was tough, but it was a lot of fun. And it was kind of cool to get to know everybody proper, you know?
So let's talk about Steady 45s, right? You went on tour with this band. You've seen some nice parts of the world. Can you talk about just that tour, the tours that you guys were doing, and what that experience was like?
We had always talked about, you know, going on tour, you know, it's going like this many amount of days out of the year. And, you know, one year we actually did it. You know, we had to hit our kind of whatever, I think it was a number 1,000 or something, 10,000. I don't know what it was, some crazy number of shows in a year or something, or in the span of whatever time we would play. And we just kind of booked this major US tour, and it coincided with another tour that we were going to Europe for a month. So we had like, it was just like, felt like 2 years that we were on the road straight, you know, doing these shows. We'd come home maybe like for a couple weeks, but then we'd be back out, you know, and then starting another tour with another band. And like I said, we had kind of just put our money into a van, a bus, and like a little short kind of medical bus kind of thing. Put campers in it and put bunks in it and stuff like that. We then did all that stuff, and you know, the most memorable was just driving across the U.S. and driving south. You know, just like in the movies, it's like fucking you hear about it and you think it's something that's kind of like of the past still, but it's still pretty heavy. You can still kind of feel that southern kind of mentality and that, you know, like that non-acceptance of people coming from the west or from the north and stuff like that. So that was kind of crazy to see, you know. And then we went to Europe, man, it was just such a nice experience to kind of travel around and saw so much of the countryside, and saw, you know, going through Deutschland and France and Czech and everything. It was just kind of like so different, but so like backwards. But I mean, it just felt so good because we got real comfortable with it the first week that we were there. I think we were there for like 3.5 weeks. And we were traveling the whole time, going through all these different towns, playing these shows with the Delirians. And I think that was just kind of like a big bucket list thing that I wanted to do. I've always wanted to go to Europe and stuff. And just the traveling is just like, I hate flying, man. I don't really like flying at all. So that's a big thing. It's like, if it's worth it, then I'll definitely go out at least once. But I try to minimize my time up in the air.
You watch too much La Bamba or what?
I watched too many times that movie, man. You know, no, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I've always kind of just felt, I'm scared of heights for one, for sure. That's like the biggest thing. But, you know, I know every time I go, like I take what's called a time machine. I call it a DeLorean. It's my trick. You know, it's probably not the best thing to do frequently, but you know, if you want to wake up in a different time zone, a different country, and not remember flying and getting there, I take like a little NyQuil and a little couple shots of Jack, wake up in another country, and you're good to go. You only remember flying, you're all relaxed, well rested. So that's my thing.
Steady 45s, you guys are doing all the tours, you're seeing the world, you're getting a really good experience by being in front of some crowds. and then you decided to hang it up. What was just kind of that turning point right there where you decided, hey, this is not for me anymore?
I think it was just kind of more of like being tired of being on the road. And I really, really, really wanted to get back in the studio and make a good record. I've always wanted to just make a good record. And I think I'm still trying to make a good record. And I'm talking like an LP, like something that's going to be a good, stand, be remembered, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but I've always wanted to do like, I guess like the Chronic, like I would want to make my Chronic one day. And that's kind of always what it came out of it. I realized I couldn't do this being on the road, getting half sleep, and drinking every night, at the shows. And this is not where I wanted to be at the time. And I think I didn't have the fire to do it anymore, to go out there and, be the guy. Cause I hated it. I don't hate it, but I just didn't prefer having like the spotlight. I like being in the back. I like being the guy on the mixing board rather than the guy with the microphone on stage. I could fit in that spot very well and I could do the part, but I much rather prefer to be, working behind the scenes and helping out a bigger instrument and a bigger holes of people in the band,
Oh, this feeling keeps me up at night. What can it be? It's only love. It's only love. It's only love. Where will it go away? Could it be temporary? Or could it be just a phase? Am I losing my mind? Am I just losing the game? It's only love. It's only love. It's only love. Must be make-believe. Could it be? Could it be just a dream? Must be fairy tale. Could it be? Could it be in And if this love is real, I don't wanna know. And if this love, I don't wanna know. So keep your love and your faith beating hard from me. It's only love. It's only love. It's only love. Whoa, please, 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 try to keep your love away from me. It's only love. It's only love.
first time I got a chance to see the Sinceres was on the Recordium, which was a live take that you guys did on that YouTube channel. So the first thing I noticed was with you and your sarape, and it's like the signature thing that you hold as you sing, and just that performance. I mean, the performance was recorded really good. The video was awesome. But what I seen there in that performance was someone that's just singing from the heart. You're sweating, you're putting it out there. I'm like, man, this guy is just like, you know, he's just putting it all out there right now. And it just came across to me like, damn, this is really cool. It's like soul, it's kind of taking it back. And you were one of the first groups that I seen that was just nailing that modern soul. And I don't even know if it was called modern soul at the time. It just all kind of like really like, this is like old school. This feels good. And so that's the first recording that I seen. So can you go into detail about just how that came about and then how the Sinceres came from those performances?
The recording was kind of something that we had always been on the radar as a, you know, kind of a local LA kind of artists. And they had approached me while I was still playing with the Steady 45s, and they wanted to do video, but something didn't line up. And I was already on my way out of the group. So I was like, do I really want to do a new video with a band that I'm not going to be in? You know, I was finishing up the year and finishing up the last tours that we had, concerts and stuff. And then I was really set that I wanted to do something different. And, you know, so I kind of took a break from the touring and the shows. And, you know, I told myself that if I do a project, if I want to get something out, I want to go and hit up Recordium, see if they want to do it, you know, just to get some content out. And, you know, few months had passed by where I wasn't playing shows, I was just writing, and I was just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, because I really wanted to transition and be in the studio more. So I had written Seems Like, and we had played it a few times at a bar, because at the same time I used to have like this bar band, it's called JQ and the Review. And we used to do like Ray Charles covers and stuff like that. And we had played this song Seems Like. And, you know, like we never got a chance to record it because the group kind of fell apart, just lost touch. So I really wanted to get this song recorded, and I wanted to do an acoustic video. I was gonna go myself and do it. So I had in my head, I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna get the nice camera, I'm gonna do it all sentimental and just, you know, sing my heart out. And, you know, I showed up and it was just completely insecure and didn't want to do it alone. And just like, you know, I gotta call this guy. And, you know, it's the people that I relied on most, always up to that point. And I think it was a matter of like an hour and a half that I made the calls, and everybody had kind of showed up and was like, all right, what are we doing? These the chords, boom, 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 here's a song. A couple of them knew it already because we had played it a couple times. And whoever wasn't available, I filled the spots. You know, my drummer that I wanted to be there wasn't there available, so I had to call another guy. And homie Diego, who's a big kind of part of the puzzle too, because he's the one who told Gabe Roth about me. So he played drums on that. Then I had some of the Steady 45s play the horns. Then I had my bass player from my first band play the bass, and the guitar player. And then my best buddy, Baco, who's the lead guitar player for the Sinceres now, show up and just kind of fill in the guitar. Because I was gonna just sing, because like I didn't know what I was gonna play. The keys, guitar, it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You do it. So I got all these guys to show up and do it, sang it, and it was really hot in there because they had all the soundproofing in there. There was no ventilation, and it was so bad that like we had to change a few times, and everybody was baking in there. And we had sung it like 30 times, so it was just like, oh my God, over and over. But it just kind of translated into like some kind of rawness, you know? And I hated that recording because I was like, man, this is not how I heard it. These guys, you know, we could have been tighter, you know, being nitpicky and stuff. But I recorded that song several times, even with Penrose, and people still prefer the live version just because of its rawness and what it captured at that time, you know what I mean? So that's something that made me learn like to be a little bit more, you know, not to be so like heavy on what your vision is, but like whatever people are receiving, and to like let them tell you what they want, you know?
Yeah, and that's an amazing story that you kind of just gathered these guys like on the last kind of seconds and created this video. This videos are like past the 3 million mark. They're 3 million plus in views. So now that you have like this forest fire that started from like a single like acoustic, you know, opportunity, and now you got the band together just to, you know, kind of put this out there to fill the obligation. Now you got this big old forest fire of people that are just like, I want this music, including myself, because like I mentioned, I mean, watching that video, there's a certain rawness that you have that you just nail on that. Your voice sounds great, the band sounds great. You say it's loose, I say it's super tight. But now you have all these people that are really wanting this music. So where do you take this? What's going through your mind?
I mean, after the performance, we didn't think anything of it. Everybody went home, regular day, you know. I think it took like maybe this whole time, you know, I think it was like maybe like 3 or 4 months where it was building up, and the views were coming up, and like people were sharing it and stuff from when it debuted or whatever, you know. And like I had forgotten all about it. It's like just another thing that I had done earlier in the month. You know, because I've always been stretching, you know, pretty far out to do other things, lots of things at the same time. So I think I was just kind of a different mentality at that time, just recording still and sending stuff to, you know, just making these little clips of videos that are tagging down, tagging Coal Mine, tagging all these record labels. Hopefully, but in a matter of that, the 4 months, I think it just blew up, and you know, people were sharing it, and you know, I would hear neighbors playing it, spreading the word of it, and it was just pretty crazy that it just caught on so fast, and it became like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I wrote that song. It's not how it sounds though. Like, I'm gonna record it, don't worry, you know.
Seems like this heart of mine only let go, and the art she gave to me just her like she called. It seems like this heart of mine just don't know about the pain that love may bring. From the way that love may seem. But I'll try to make it understand. Seems like I lost my mind, searching for love, and the pain I feel deep in my soul, they will never ever tire. Hurt by eating, cleansed by fire. So let it burn, burn, burn for you. Seems like this heart of mine is torn a bit stronger, and the pains I feel, oh, I feel no longer. Seems like this heart of mine is only free. Seems like the days are come, sure as the rising sun. Baby, I'll be moving on, but before the night is gone, I will try for you. If I should cry for you, then let it burn, burn, burn for you. Oh, let it burn, burn, burn for you.
So before doing the recording with Recordium, you were already sending tracks over to Coal Mine Records, just like demos and things like that, trying to get their attention. Is that correct?
Correct.
So let's talk about that. Like, so you're sending them what type of songs, and what are you ultimately hoping for by sending Coal Mine Records these tracks?
I think initially I was trying to send them to like more of the Barrio Joyride, instrumental, funky Latin stuff that, and again, like trying to make that war sound, like something similar to that. I was trying to get their attention with stuff like that, and you know, make these little video clips, tag them, you know, little visuals behind it, and yeah, I just kept on like but then you know, they got, oh, this is cool, and they kind of responded or like, you know, shared it here and there, which was a big deal in its own when they would share stuff. So, you know, and then for them to kind of reach out, like, hey, like, yo, this one. We looked at your SoundCloud, because at some point they had reached out to me and said, you know, send us some stuff, you know, and I was like sending these little like DJ mix versions of songs they would cut in and out, so like they wouldn't steal anything because I was so paranoid. And you know, like, no man, send us the tracks. You good, man. You don't have to worry about that. Like, you know, if we find something we like, we'll buy it. We'll let you know. And they heard It Was Only a Dream, and they were like, yo, this is what we need. This is what Coal Mine Records doesn't have. Like, you know, because they had all the nice like funky stuff, and the orgone and all these like great, you know, the monophonics and stuff like that. They had all that stuff covered, all the funk and all the soul covered. They didn't need another one. They were interested in like the doo-wop stuff that we were doing, and I was recording. So they had kind of responded to that, and that's kind of what led the conversation to make a record.
Now, that It Was Only a Dream and I Don't Mind, those were released in 2019 by Coal Mine Records. And then, so what's the feeling like? Okay, so now my foot's definitely in the door, or I'm in the door now. So what's the feeling there? You're like, okay, this is it. I'm in. Everything that I've been doing is now adding up to these two songs. And, you know, what's that feeling like?
It was kind of cool. I think, you know, when that was going on and when they decided to press that, I was already on, you know, my eyes were already on other material. I was writing other different songs. So that's what a writer's thing is always, is like your newest thing, you always hate your old stuff. And, you know, so I was kind of already over it, but people had not heard it yet, and they were about to be exposed to it. So, you know, while I'm kind of mindset on this other stuff, like this is all happening behind my ears, and I don't really pay attention to it at this point. You know, I'm not really too active on social media, and I'm like at that point, and like not really seeing the effect that all these videos, recording them for one, and then the views that Coal Mine's getting from sharing our stuff. And then they announced it, and people were just like, oh my God, great. You know, because like we were just little treasure that nobody knew about. And I'm like still trying to find a drummer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's just so amazing to me that, you know, again, you did this you know, live show, you're putting out stuff, the band is like not really together, and I'm thinking as a fan, like listening to you guys, like, oh, these guys are like, they got the band, they're solid, there's, you know, this is all, you know, this is what they're doing. But meanwhile, you're just kind of like pulling from friends and, you know, people around you, like, hey, join in. Because I've seen a couple different recordings, and you got like a bunch of different people that are coming in. So can you kind of go into that, like how the Sinceres is kind of like a community of people, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was. Like I said, it started off with that kind of accident stuff, and then, you know, then we're like, oh, who could we get? You know, who would be cool to? I think it was Trish had a show. We were backing her. And you're like, well, let's start chance of playing for a lot of people. It'd be cool to, you know. And this is the conversation me and Tony had. Like, let's just make a review. Like, you know, let's all get the sickest people that we know that we love playing with. Let's get them all together. You know, you do this, that, blah blah blah, and then we back up Trish, and then we do a little 30-minute set, and everybody gets to sing a song. You know, Adriana from the Altons, Brian from the Altons, I sang a song, Tony sang a song. We were just, that's all the Sinceres were. Bunch of different singers taking leads, and it was just like us, like just kind of like just throwing out there, like, hey, this is what we could do. You know, hopefully something, if somebody likes something Tony's doing and somebody likes what I'm doing or something, then we all could expand to our own things. It felt like we all kind of but we all like utilize the platform Trish gave us, you know, as exposure to all her fans. We use that as a stage to present everybody at the same time in this big review. And the first time we came out, it blew everybody's minds. Like, oh my God, you know, they didn't know anything about the Altons, they didn't know anything about the Steady 45s. But after that show, everybody dug into everybody, and everybody found out about all these great artists because of that one show. And I think that was like the biggest achievement, you know, as a group. and then, we all kind of just started branching off into our own little pockets, So you got the Illusions, you got the Sinceres, you got Trish, you got, Adrian Carmine, and all those people that kind of not directly came about it, but it's kind of grown the scene and grown the whole movement a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a great scene. And that, talking to Tony on that, initial interview, it's like, I didn't even know that there was just this big community that you guys kind of all hung out together. You guys all grew up together. So that was really cool. And a lot of the scenes that, we've seen over the years, like some of the metal scene, a lot of those guys played together for many years and they all kind of hit at once. And I feel like that's what's happening right now with the soul scene. All you guys have all kind of helped each other and all created this community, and it's all pushing forward into this great music. So the big one, I think, when I really kind of, really paid attention, and I think a lot of people paid attention, was Seems Like. And that was on the EP presented by Penrose.
Yeah, and I think that was like one of the first sessions that we went in there and did, because, Gabe Roth, again, going back to the recording, the drummer on that session was, he had owned a bar in Fullerton, and he would always have me come out there and sing some songs. And, so he's like, man, I told, first of all, he's one of the first time I heard Jason Joshua, because he's like, yeah, I hope Jason Joshua, he comes out, he does this shit. I'm like, okay, whatever, which he's a good friend of mine now, obviously. But he had always kind of thrown out, like, you gotta do something with fucking Daptone, you gotta do Coal Mine, blah, blah. It's like, okay, yeah, for sure. He's like, I'm gonna tell Gabe Roth about you. I'm like, okay, yeah, this one knows Gabe Roth, whatever, okay. And he sure enough, him and then like some of the guys from the Funk Freaks, like Les and Ryan, Guzman, some of those DJs that had always been throwing my name out there in Riverside. And when Gabe had kind of started the studio on Riverside, he had kept hearing my name, like, oh, this is Kid Joey. He records, does a tape, plays all these instruments, blah blah. So he got in contact with me and gave my number. So Gabe called me, kind of had me come down and kind of feel it out. And we had gone out there. He had invited me to come out and help build the studio, because they were doing all this construction. They were taking out trash. And it's like, it's not going to be clean work. It's going to be dirty work. It's fun, man. You get to learn, how to wire up a studio and stuff. And this is exactly the time where I'm trying to do the exact same thing. So it's like, hell yeah, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to learn from the best person I learned from. And he had kind of like, he's like, oh, if you have any homies, I want to come. It's like, the first person I'm going to call is Brian from the Options. I know he has songs and I know he wants to get a record out. And if anybody deserves it, it's this guy right now. So I called Brian, like, dude, just come over here, help me clean out the studio for Daptone. It's like, all right, yeah, cool. So we went out there, spent the whole 2 days out there cleaning it. And then within a week and a couple weeks after that, he invited us to come out and record. So I called all the Sinceres and gone through all these tunes and like showed him all these tunes. And he's like, no, what's that? Seems Like tune. He's like, oh, I recorded that one. He's like, oh, let's do another version of it. So we did that. And that was, I think, one of the first sessions that we did at Penrose.
Now, Gabriel Roth, and then he's also known as Bosco Man. He's a big deal, right? He's worked with like Amy Winehouse. He's worked with others. He's like the new person, I guess, in your life that's really changed your life.
I mean, he definitely, within the past like year, has been the guy to shape all of us as musicians, because we've been doing studio work at Penrose. All the releases on Penrose, that whole EP is, like at least 70% of the Sinceres, is on the horns, the backing musicians. We all just spent so much time there last year to help do exactly what we do here, but over there, kind of help that sound. But with his experience of who he's worked with and the people that have been around him, the musicians that he's worked with, and his like credibility of just as a producer, but not only that, but his knowledge as a musician and a songwriter, it just helped us out so much being over there and spending time over there, where we could come back over here and apply those methods and those stylistics over here. So it's been like a big like puzzle piece that's like, oh, okay, we're gonna take this from here now and bring it back home and make it, because we always want to, I always want to, I guess, at least have a big community of it and not just be one band or one person, And I think that they do a good job of kind of modeling that. So I think I try to take as much back, especially from Daptone and Penrose, back over here to my studio,
his name? What's his name? Tell me what he likes to call you. What does he like to call you? Tell me how to fall out of love with you. Because I try to give you love, and you keep lying, yeah, and you keep running. So tell me, and tell me, in the middle of the night, when I'm all alone, call you on the telephone. You keep telling me you care. All I really wanna know, who is? What's his name, girl? So tell me,
So the song "Don't Tell Me" comes out. That was in April 2019, and I noticed this because it was on Danny Trejo's Volume 1. He did the Chicano Soul Shop. This thing was being pushed like major. It's the first time I heard Trish, yourself, Malik, all these artists that were on this. Baby Bash was on this. Coda was on this. So again, it was being pushed very hard. And that's the first time, again, that it was just like a compilation like that I've seen with the Modern Soul. Tell me about that experience there and working with Danny Trejo and friends.
It was cool. It was a great studio project. Most importantly, it was something that kind of got my teeth sink into producing different artists of different calibers, different type of voices and singers. So I got to write music for Frankie J, for obviously for Trish and for Tara. And one of my songs got picked up on it, which is "Don't Tell Me," which is released on Mango Hill as "The World I Know." And it was just kind of a cool experience to kind of just dabble in different styles with different people and just expand the brand and expand my name. At this time, I'm just trying to like work so much that my name's being said at some conversation at some point.
You got a chance to meet Danny Trejo. Any funny stories about Danny Trejo that you have?
Him and Bash have a funny line whenever they see me. They're like, "Joey Quiñones, all about your chones." They bust my balls every time with that, so that's a memorable one. But he's a big kid. Danny Trejo and Bash too, Baby Bash. They're big kids, and it's such a cool thing to hear them talking about. Because one of my favorite movies is Blood and Blood Out, American Me. I love those movies, of course. And it's so cool to hear him talk about that and kind of what it was like doing that stuff. And because he was in prison during that, I believe. So he was talking about that. It's just so many stories, and he's just superhuman. I mean, he saved like a woman and a baby out of a car wreck like late last year or something like that. Cool dude, very, very warm and very welcoming.
And he's just a person that's just been through a lot in life. And it's kind of cool to see him do his thing and help, others out. Because I know before, I've seen interviews with him, and he was just going down the wrong path. He's done a lot of bad things. He's in jail, almost died, almost got like the electric chair. They almost killed him in jail.
Yeah.
And to come out of that and now do something for the people, you know, put this music out, I think it's really cool. He's got a taco shop. He's just doing everything right now. But it's really cool to see that, you know, he's helping others. So that's really awesome.
He did. He gave me the most important thing in my name, which was the Y, the Joey. I mean, I gotta give him 100% credit for calling me Joey.
Yeah, let's go into that, because you mentioned that you changed up the name, you added the Y. What were they trying to call you originally for that track?
Well, they didn't expect me to do anything. I mean, I was writing for their artists, and when they found out that I could actually sing, they were like, "Holy shit, what's going on here? Why don't we just do something with you?" You know? And then it's like, "Oh, but what do we call you?" And I didn't really have anything going on. People called me JQ, but they had another rap artist on the same label from Detroit. His name was JQ. So like, well, we can't call you that. We just signed a guy named JQ. You know, what if we call this record Joey? You know, he's like, yeah, Joey, I like that. Joey Quinones has a good sound, you know? And I just, you know, like, whatever, you know, just as long as my name is spelled right, you know, on the paperwork, we're good. So
I want to go into the Bash Tones. Can you tell me about that project, how that project came about, and who's in that group?
that was pretty much just a spin-off of the you know, the trail stuff, and Bash kind of, you know, capitalizing on that idea of, you know, this collective of singers and the material that I was writing. So, you know, I wrote music for Frankie and Coda and stuff, and, you know, we all just kind of at different times got into the studio and laid our parts, and it was just really fluid and really easy to do. And it was just a cool experience to kind of work with Bash and kind of get his, you know, insight, because he's been in the business for many years. And, you know, like, some people will think like, what are you doing? Like, you don't listen to rap. Like, what are you hanging out with rappers for? Like, man, I'll learn from anybody I can. You know what I mean? Especially people that have been doing this longer than we've been alive, you know, sometimes. You know, like, because they must be doing something right, you know. So I try to take as much knowledge from everybody that I meet, especially like people that want to work with me and have interest in it, for sure.
Yeah, and that record is called Soldies Are Forever, right? And the collection of those tracks is very different. It's got the soul, it's got the hip hop, it's got the R&B, it's got a lot of different flavors. So, you know, you guys were all in the studio at different times. You guys weren't out there all together working on it?
For the most part, yeah, I was doing soul tracks in my studio, you know, and then he would come in and I would do my vocals. He would send it out and do his sessions in Houston or, you know, wherever he was. And then Frankie J, the same thing. Everybody had their own setups and their own preference in where they recorded. For the most part, I only produced and engineered and did the songs that I sang on.
Now, there's a lot of personalities in that group. I mean, it's a super group, right? It's an all-star cast for sure. When you're producing these tracks and presenting it to them, are you nervous? Like, man, like, I hope they like it. Are they hard to work with? Is it easy to work with them? Or are they just like, yeah, whatever you want, let's do it? How is that all come together right there?
I think just from the stuff that we've been doing prior to that, I think they kind of gave me the okay to just kind of do, you know, they didn't really shadow over me or kind of give me any really guidelines or anything like that. Just do what you do because we want to do what you do, you know, kind of thing. And we'll fit in where we can. And they're so professional that and watching them do their stuff, you know, like people like Trish and Bash and Frankie J, like people like Coda too, seeing them step in the booth for like 5 minutes and come out with just amazing stuff. It takes me days to record my vocals sometimes. So it's just like, I appreciate and respect their professionalism and their skill and their, you know, the use of their instrument, you know, how well they know how to do it. So I don't think there was a lot of ego or anything like that. It was just kind of fluid. They trusted me, and I think that was the most important part.
So there's a major legend that you work with on this record, and that's Kid Frost, and he's on the Midnight Cruise song. What was it like working with that legend right there? Chicano, like, hero, right? What was it like working with him?
I mean, he loved everything that I was about and what that we were doing and what we represented, because, you know, he saw the videos of The Sincere. He was a big fan already. You know, he had reached out after that to kind of work on some things that hopefully we'll get into the studio this year to do. But, you know, he was just kind of like straight up, you know, just, I had seen him perform a lot of times at car shows too, my dad. So I had been aware of him for many years, but I never really considered that I would be able to cross some paths or doing anything with them. And for him to want to seek out and want to do the track was just a big, like, wow, you know, it's a cool thing because, you know, like I grew up listening to those tracks, you know, everywhere, you know, wherever I grew up. And whether it be San Bernardino or East LA, he was such a big part of that culture. So it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, yeah, of course, it kind of made sense of like, oh, why, what if this happened? But at the same time, it was still like, how is this happening? It's like, I got to stop and remember where I am sometimes, you know?
Yeah, and he's a true pioneer. Been doing it for a long time. It was just awesome to see that. He has a killer verse on there. It's like so cool to just see that he's, you know, part of that with you guys. Now, is there going to be more music coming from the Bash Tones, or is this just kind of a one-time thing?
I think as far for me, I don't think I'm going to be, you know, like I got a lot of focus on stuff that I'm doing now. But I mean, if the opportunity came up to do something again, I would do something live or, you know, a video or some sort or some kind of collaboration or something. I would be more interested in doing it. But I think as a recording project, I think I want to focus on getting some more Sinceres records out for sure.
For the love light, shut the party down, get the love right. Take a little cruise in the moonlight, right before I give it to you all night. Already know you're so down for a cruise. Let the top drop, baby, vibe to the music. Give it to you any way you want, you can choose it. Celebrate the night, do it right, baby, do it. We can light up that green, spark it up fresh, so clean. Rolling loud with the girl of my dreams. Wait to take you home, my queen.
Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to say goodnight.
Lifetime dream of yours to just produce and, you know, just be that guy in the background doing all the, you know, the buttons, the gear, you know, putting together the song, putting together the lyrics? Is that like your ultimate just dream and goals?
I think for the most part, I wanted to be the front man, you know, for many years. When I got to that point with Steady 45, I realized you know, I don't want to do this. You know, it's not something that I want to kind of spend my days and my energy on focusing on. You know, I could be utilized doing this in the studio better. You know, I could help out more people by being in the studio than I can shaking my ass on stage. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think for a long time I wanted to do that. I just wanted to be the guy, center stage guy, you know. But after getting a taste of it somewhat, a little bit, I guess, it's not really as interesting as it seems. And I think I have more fun in the studio working with people than anything. So yeah, I think now it's kind of more leaning towards, I really am fulfilling, to be honest with you, which is growing it and just increasing the expectations so that way you don't get dull, you don't get stale and stuff, yeah.
What is your first step in producing? Like, okay, so let's say we have like a Trish Toledo that's coming in, and you know, what's your first step? Is it like going off her ideas? Are you, or just, hey, I have this song that I put together, how this may fit you? What's your process there when an artist comes to you?
I try to have them kind of open up the idea, whether it be a sheet of lyrics or, you know, a melody. You know, sometimes in the case of the Lakesiders, she hummed a melody and, you know, we built an entire song around it, you know, just from her little whistling. So like, I think for the most part, I try to see what it is that they're trying to get out. Most importantly, before I even say anything, I try to listen as much as I can. And then, you know, at a certain point when it's not, if there's no kind of direction or if there's no kind of momentum, then eventually I'll say, hey, you know, what about these chords? Or why don't we just, you know, and if nothing's kind of still, first 30 minutes, first hour, then let's just sit down, let's listen to the music and like, show me some songs or show me some recordings that you like, some singers that you want to sound, some songs that you like, you know? And then I just immediately put myself in that position of like what they're doing, each member of that band in this recording and how it's working and stuff. So it's like a lot of, my mind works a lot. Like when I'm in the studio, I don't really get to take a break. You know, the people take lunches, but when they take lunch, I'll be setting up for the next microphone, you know, I'll be setting up for the next part of the session. So it's a lot of like, you always have to be 4 or 5 steps ahead of the artist as terms of like, if they don't like this idea, okay, then you throw this one, this one, this one, this one. And that's kind of like what, you know, what's kind of brought back from Gabe's, because you go to Gabe's studio and, you know, we'll spend 2 days just working out one section of a song because it's something's not working or something could be better. And, you know, so you try to find as many different ways to excite the artist and the musicians who are in there to create an atmosphere to be able to go in and have a good recording session and have a good idea translate.
Yeah, and one thing that's come up in some of the interviews that I did with like Mariah, and then even Coda had brought this up with you, is that there's something that you do to relax them. I don't know if it's the words that you tell them or the vibe that you set off in the studio, but can you talk about that? Because I'm sure there's people that know who you are. They know that, you know, you're a big deal. I don't care what you tell me, but I know that you're a big deal. If I was going into the studio with you, I would know like, okay, this is going to be good. No matter what comes out of this, it's going to give me some love because Joey's put a stamp on it. So what do you do to like an artist that comes in that just seems nervous?
I mean, it's always different. Everybody's always different. You know, like in some cases, you know, like the Escapers came in, you know, I'll give them as an example. They were fans of the Steady 45s. And they were fanboys of the Steady 45s. And then when they found out that I did some soul music, they were super, you know, fanboys of me. So they came in and they were kind of nervous and like kind of just like real fidgety. And it's like, man, like, you know, like, dude, like, and they reminded me so much of the Steady 45s and all the personalities in that band. So I just felt so uncomfortable with them, but they were all nervous because they were at my studio and, you know, it's like, man, like, dude, like, I'm the same fucking dudes as you guys are. And like, you know, started telling jokes, started telling stories about mutual people that we met and just, you know, I just kind of try to relate to them and just like put myself in their situation and let them understand that like, it's not a high pressure situation because the studio here is not a very high pressure situation. It's, if we get it done, we get it done. Great. If we don't, we'll come back next time, we'll get it right, you know? So I think that's the thing is that I don't really put a limit on the sessions. It's like, as far as you got this much time to knock it out and you're out the door. You know, it's like, let's get some time to get comfortable. Let's make sure like this guitar is gonna work for you. If you don't like these drums heads, let's switch them out. Let's get another drum set. You know, let's get you comfortable. Just kind of a lot of booze, of course, always helps getting them. You know, I try to get, especially with Johnny from the Escapers. I mean, he was so kind of timid, you know, and like he couldn't we weren't getting a good sound of like setting up a studio mic and singing. You know, it finally turned into like, all right, how about this? Put your glasses on, you know, hold your Corona on your right hand and hold this microphone and listen. And he was vibing. It took him to where he wanted to be, you know, because he's used to playing like that. So I think I just try to find the strengths and the weaknesses, I guess, of everybody who comes in and kind of showcase and pump them up, not only with their strengths, but kind of just put them at ease for the weaknesses and make them not worry about it.
I really do think that you are a very special person, because most people, most producers, they can only really produce. You know, like they can push the buttons, they know what needs to happen on the producer side, but you can write music, you can sing. That's another big one, is you can sing too. How much does that give you an edge, you think, when these artists come in and ask for your help, when you have all these knowledge of instruments and knowledge of what it takes to sing?
I think that's the biggest thing that's interests me, that puts him at ease, is like, you know, like, oh, he could put himself in our shoes if he knows, you know, as a horn player, as a singer, as a percussionist, or whatever. I've at some point in my life done all those roles for my recordings or for artists backing them up live or anything. That I get it, and I'd like to think that I have a knowledge of where things should set most of the time. A lot of times I'm wrong too, though. A lot of times, you know, somebody younger than me will come in, but I think it's such a big thing to like be able to shut up sometimes and like listen for sure, like to what's actually happening, and not only always think that you have the right answers, because I don't all the time.
Now, the big artist that you've worked with is, you know, Trish Toledo. She's basically like the modern soul queen, right? She has a huge following. A lot of people love the stuff that she's doing. I've seen her in concert. She sounds great. You've worked with a lot of tracks with her originally. What is it like working with her? And how have you seen her like grow through this process through the last couple years?
I mean, she's always been like a force to be reckoned with. I mean, like back then too, like, you know, she just kind of commanded attention, and, you know, it just was such a thing to like, she had something even back then that you knew, you know, and she kind of always stuck with it. She had such a great story, and, you know, so many people look up to her, and that's the most beautiful thing to me, I think. And to see that grow, to see her like train younger singers and take on people, you know, I think it's such a cool thing to have her kind of share that knowledge. And I think she dove so much into like not only just being a singer, but being a writer and being an artist and being like an actual writing. And, you know, she's learning guitar. I've seen her build her studio. I helped her build her studio. She got all this equipment. She wanted to learn how to run everything, you know. So I'm teaching her how to do all these things, and she's taking knowledge and wants to learn everything about it, so that way she can be hands-on, because that's what really she wants. So I think it's all fucking cool to see her kind of get in her own and kind of lend her I guess what you call spotlight to other people and other artists, not only music, but like people making jewelry and people cooking and stuff like that. She always shares all that stuff. So I think it's important to use your platform to do so. I respect that for sure.
Is there future songs coming out? I know you've done The Only One, right? You guys were featured, the Sinceres were featured in that song, and that was it seemed like a really cool production right there. It was like the whole 70s like music video going on. Can you tell me about that song and that process and how that song came about?
Yeah, I think it was a song that we had maybe did like a writing session, I want to say maybe in August of last year, of the year before, I'm sorry, 19 maybe. And we had written a handful of songs that we kind of just were starting, we never got to finish, and that was the first one that we finished. There's a couple other ones that we had done with the Sinceres that we recorded. I haven't really finished yet because we had obviously everybody gotten busy and kind of done their own kind of shows and stuff like that, so we kind of fell off the loop of that. But, you know, we did a live stream with her as a Sinceres back in the day, like sometime last week, and it was like kind of like a cool, like, hey, you know, like we got to do something again, you know. So there's definitely plans in getting her in the studio. I think she's gonna come Thursday actually, because her fiance, congratulations to them too, she just got engaged. Her fiance is gonna come and paint my sign for the studio, hand paint it. So I'll be able to see them Thursday and maybe, you know, work something out, get something going.
gonna do right by me, 'cause I ain't gonna be no one. No, no, got to be the only one. Ain't gonna be no one's second choice. No, no. Just say you love me and that your heart won't be untrue. Tell me you want me, and I'm the only one for you. 'Cause I ain't gonna be no one's. No, no, got to be the only one. Just tell me that it's real. Tell me that it's true. No, no. Just say you love me, and I'm the only one for you. I ain't gonna be no one's. No, no. Ain't gonna be no
I want to go into Mariah Avila. You produced her album. Mariah is a very talented singer. She has an amazing voice. She mentioned you in the interview that you were basically sole responsible for producing her album. This is the first album that you cut with her. What was that experience like? And they basically gave you the keys to the city, right, for this one?
Yeah, it was pretty much, you know, the songs that I had written for her to sing, minus one of them that I think her grandmother had written, because her grandmother was a songwriter. And, you know, we had talked about, man, we got to translate some of these lyrics. They're really cool, you know, and that's what we did with one of them. And I always had tracks, you know, we'd be going through tracks that I had, like, oh, I like this one, or there's something like this. And for the most part, it was all songs that I had ready to go, that I just needed an artist to kind of take it to the touchdown. So when she got in, we literally sat down at the piano, me and her, and just so organic, so easy, you know, and we got along right off the bat completely. So I think, you know, that was a big part of it too, that, you know, we were just two geeks, you know, just wanting to write songs. And I was so excited to produce these songs, and it just, the chemistry was so great that it just happened so fast. You know, we cut, like, I think, I don't know how long it was, but we cut the entire EP in that time that we were working together. And, you know, it was go in the studio, write the song, cool, come back next week, record it, next week, another song. And it was just boom, 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 like that, so fluid that it just made sense. And it was just a good collaboration for sure.
What do you love about Mariah's voice? When you first heard it, were you like, what?
So strong, it blew me away. She could get so loud. And the thing is, like, she gigs so much, you know, she's a seasoned musician. So, you know, she's at the point where every singer should be at, where as far as your instrument, you know, she takes care of it, and she knows how to use it and what certain points to manipulate it, and it's just the way that she sang my melodies and added to it and changed it certain ways just made it so much more sense as a singer, because I don't consider myself a singer. I sing, but I don't like know all the tricks and the runs. I'm a light jogger, as they say, you know. And that's her joke. She'll tell me that's her joke, that she'll say is like, yeah, you don't do runs. You're like a light jogger, JQ. I'm like, all right, thank you. So, you know, I admire the fact that she could do all those vocal tricks that real singers could do, but really kind of hold back and still be kind of like a modern, yet have a throwback to her voice, you know. So I think that's the best of both worlds for sure. That's the first thing that I noticed off the bat.
And then would you like to do another project with her? Is that something that's in the works, or?
Yeah, I think there'll be another record, at least with the Sinceres or myself or something. I mean, I think we'll definitely be always into making music with her for sure.
So recently I seen you working with Little Willie G, the frontman of the Midnighters. Huge legend right there, been doing it for a long period of time. Guy's got a great voice. What was it like working for him, and what project was that on?
That was actually a project through IMG that they had reached out to his son, Willie G's son, Jacob G, who's a fantastic drummer and a really, really great singer. Came in and we had done a record for him, and he had put together the session with the musicians, and he had brought everybody down, and we got together in a room and we just pushed record straight to tape. 4 guys in the room, 4 microphones, straight to tape. Mixed it right there on the spot because they were so good. Like they mixed themselves, and they were such great players. And then we overdubbed his dad, Willie G. He had his whole group of backup vocals, and they did the backups. And Willie G had actually reached out to me on Instagram about doing something on his album. He's putting together an album that he's working on with Nick Waterhouse and a bunch of other artists. So, you know, we had always been in communication and trying to get something going. But that was the first time we met. He came to the studio. Of course, I had him sign my piano. So I have Brentwood, got Little Willie G, and I got Danny Trejo to sign my piano.
So is that the goal, just trying to get a bunch of collection of signatures?
Oh yeah, my heroes for sure.
Did you learn any tips from him in the studio? Did he bring any knowledge to you when you were working with him?
Not necessarily a tip, but something that I've been noticing a lot in a lot of singers is like hands, and especially singing in groups. Like the older guys, when they sing, because they're used to singing in groups. You know, they didn't have multiple channels in the 60s, so they had to sing under one microphone. So just like how to blend and watching how they manipulate the sound that they're coming out of their mouths into one microphone is just amazing to me. And just kind of taking that, kind of watching them, how they discipline themselves from the microphone and what their performance is to get a good sound overall, not just have them sound good. So a lot of times people, when they're in the studio, they want to hear themselves only. But to be able to hear everybody together and see how they kind of did it was kind of like a big, okay, I could see now. That's awesome. I get that. I could take away from that.
I follow your Instagram, like I'm on it, bro. Like I'm on that Instagram just to see like who you're working with and what's going on. And lo and behold, the Lakesiders are in your studio. My heart dropped. Like I said, my heart dropped when I seen that, because I feel like with them, they were one of the first to come out. They had a really huge single in the Parachute song. They had like the visuals, the video was cool, like their style is cool. And then they just kind of like, I don't know what really happened. They put out a couple like little covers here and there, and then they just like disappeared. Then I seen them on the Instagram with you, and like I said, I was so excited to like hear what you guys are working on. So can you tell us about that relationship and what you guys are working on?
We reached out to them early on to kind of do something, and the timing just never really fell through. And then until recently, Jason had kind of reached out, and I don't know if Jason Joshua had called them or they had called Jason inquiring about releasing something, but the conversation started of like they wanted to make a record, and he had recommended, he's like, oh, you got to go to JQ's, go to Joey's, we'll take care of you guys, you know, let's get the band, whatever we need, let's get it done. And from the time that they came in, Jason flew in from Miami, picked them up after the airport, dropped them off in my studio. He went to go get a haircut and told me to make a record. So it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. So the whole time we just kind of hung out with them. Sinceres and Lakesiders just had like a big kind of powwow, just hanging out, talking about stuff. And it just kind of grew more of a friendship. And then from that, kind of we started working in the first day of the studio. We just kind of jammed out. She hummed out a melody, and everybody in the band just kind of got together. Like in the movies, it was like, bass player puts up slow motion, gets the song, then the horn players come in and they know the line automatically. Like, completely movie moment. So it was just completely organic and completely fluid, and it just kind of happened. And from that kind of just grew a good relationship, because they're so, they're such, like, from the same, we come from the same background. So I think it's like, we just kind of meshed well together, like meeting all the guys from Sinceres and Lakesiders was just a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't we make a record?
And I seen an interview with them. They kind of mentioned that they were doing like a political song. Are they doing political songs?
Not that I know of. I mean, they may have some other stuff kind of brewing up, but for the most part, just the two singles that I know is just one that, from what I know, it's called "Can't Fool Me Twice," which is kind of like a jab at the experiences that they learned in the music business, kind of like being kind of a little bit traumatized from the business and what their experiences were. So that's why I think that's what they kind of loved for a while. So that's what the song is about. And then another kind of like Rosing the Originals type, dance hall kind of, winter dance ball ballad called Show Me Love, I believe. I could be messing up the titles. I'm not completely 100% sure, but this is what I know for sure.
So with the Lakesiders, they had a huge hit with the Parachute. I mean, it's over like 5.7 million views. It's a really beautiful song, very simple song, but it's just super catchy, right? And that was like back in 2018, and that's kind of one of the first songs that I ever heard that just really caught my attention. Like, this could be something big, Can you go into just their importance of that song and this group? What they mean to the modern soul today?
I think that they were kind of like the first. I mean, as far as from our area in the LA kind of west side, they were the first to kind of like open up the idea of, like, I guess what you would call modern soul, modern souldies, or whatever the word that they're throwing out, because they put like an image between it and such a style and such a just such a very reminiscent about it, and it attracted people from like older generations to the younger, because these were people that were our age dressing like our grandparents, and it just looks so cool. It's such a nice package. It was a good package, and I think they kind of put that out there, and they're the first ones to do that, to get attention to all of us. And I don't think they really know how important they are to kind of starting this kind of movement of the younger artists, and paving way for the younger artists to come up and sing their songs and tell their stories.
Now, does that put more pressure on you to work with a group like that? Because right now, I mean, just from the outside, I mean, they're a one-hit wonder. I mean, I don't know if we can that kind of sounds harsh, but they are like a one-hit wonder. Are you like there working with them like hell with that? Like, we're gonna make them fucking big because they deserve to be big. They helped all of us.
Yeah, totally. I think everybody kind of was like, especially the Sinceres, because a lot of people think that we had like beef or something, because just because we come from the same neighborhood and we like we do the same stuff, that we're competitive. But I think immediately everybody in the band was like, let's do this, let's be there for them, and this is their time, let's do it.
I want to just kind of close it out with you being a father. I think it's so cool to see your new daughter, right? I don't think she's 1 yet, right?
No, she just turned 10 months today.
What's it like having a young child? Now you got all this stuff going on. You got producer, you're writing music, you're in the studio 24/7. What's it been like, having the new daughter in the world?
It's exciting. It's been kind of like a check into adulthood for sure, because a lot of times I was a reckless touring guy, just didn't really have. I was pretty much homeless. I didn't have a home or a steady place to live. I was always on the road. Could fit my entire life in a suitcase. Living with my girl and living with my daughter, it's been such a good to have a place to come home and just relax and unwind, and most importantly, keep business separate from family. And it's something that I've really, really grown to appreciate a lot more, especially during this pandemic, because again, we were supposed to be touring, and we were going to tour a month earlier, but I was going to have my daughter, so I wasn't going to go on the tour. So they moved the entire tour a month back, and then the pandemic happened, so then canceled the tour. So it's kind of like, I'm glad that happened in a sense, because I've been able to be a better father, and I've been able to kind of be there and just, really be an adult and really grow up, like what what everybody needs to do at a certain point for sure, but still have time to be able to do, you know, music and have my girl who's so supportive of that and lets me, you know, continue to pursue my dreams and does everything to do that she can to do to, you know, to keep me afloat and keep my head in the clouds with my feet on the ground still, you know.
Now is this your first child?
No, I have a son. I have another relationship. I have a son, a 5-year-old son.
Okay.
He just turned 5, and then yeah, he lives with his mother, and this is my first daughter.
So I wanted to go into, I seen that on your Instagram that, you know, you definitely got a girl there, you got a new child in the world. How did you two meet?
We met on a video shoot. I invited her to a Baby Bash video shoot, and I just wanted to talk to her all day. So it was my excuse to kind of hang out with her. And, you know, she had fit the part perfectly because she always done herself good up in 50s, 60s makeup and stuff like that. And I just suckered her into coming down and spending the whole day with me. And just, you know, she kind of got a taste of my lifestyle, which was, I guess, kind of not really familiar, but exciting, you know? So I think, you know, she was impressed about all the older people that were like working with me and like asking for me to work for them. And it was just a very exciting time. And I think that's what, you know, got us to kind of start talking and hanging out and stuff like that. And, you know, she was my merch girl for many years for my band and just the #1 supporter. And she just loves music. And she's, you know, she always says, you know, you make the music and I dance, because she's a dancer and she loves that. So it's kind of a cool relationship to have somebody who loves music as much as you do, you know.
Yeah, and you guys look so cute on the Instagram. You guys doing like the pumpkin patch. You're doing all this cool stuff together. Like, I really enjoy seeing that, you know, on the Instagram with you two. It's just really, you know, really cool to see that she supports, because there's not a lot of people out there that understand your lifestyle, man. That's like, I think, a big thing in relationships growing up that I'm seeing. Like, your girl definitely has to have your back as you do, you know, your conquest of music, you know.
I drive her crazy, I'm sure. Like right now, like I'm telling you, man, I told her, like, I've been to a quick interview real quick, and then she'll hear the interview and she'll see it later and she'll be like, wow, that was really cool. And like, yeah, that's what I was doing, you know. So sometimes it must be hard for her because, you know, like a lot of people, I guess, talk about me, or like, you know, there's a lot of people sharing my stuff and I'm out there a lot and it's kind of hard to have a private life. But when I come home, that's what I'm about. You know, that's my family. I'm about that. And I don't like answering my phone and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's cool to have the balance.
Well, man, I definitely want to thank you for doing this, man. You do not know how much this means to me, man. Like, I love the music that you're doing. I love the projects that you've worked on. It's very important to me, with the stuff that you're doing. And there's a lot of friends and family that I have that just love all the stuff that you're doing. And I really look forward to seeing you continue this journey that you're on, man. I know you're gonna go like through the roof, through the stars. And I really, again, appreciate you doing this, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Make me look cool.
You're watching Universal Groove. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.
Chance on me. Just take a chance on me.